everybody. How are you guys today? I just want to see if I am in my Facebook group. Pretty sure I am, but I haven't seen it show up yet. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. So if you guys have any comments, I'll be able to see it and keep track of it. I hope you guys are having an incredible Wednesday. This is day 2 for the self-love activation workshop that I'm doing for the 3 days. And today we're going to talk about overcoming barriers. So let me bring over my slideshow. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the replay from day 1, it is still there. I'll throw it in a guide later. And I will also um, go through I haven't done the homework yet for yesterday, so I'm going to put mine in for day 1 for yesterday. Feel free to do the same thing, and then we'll go through day 2. So day 1, we talked a lot about the self-love and what it is, what strategies we can have to help implant it into our regular day, as well as how to boost energy using self-care, which is doing a lot more of those active ones and taking and scheduling it in and taking those 2-3 minutes here and there in breaks, as opposed to um, scrolling through your social media or anything like that, or watching reels and getting stuck in like those swiping situations. Do something instead that's related to self-care and help boost your energy, and find what works for you and what energizes you, because not everything is going to be good for you. Some stuff will drain your energy, so sometimes it takes a little bit to realize what those items are. So today we are going to talk about the barriers that we have related to self-love that could prevent you from having self-love. And I also wanted to do it based on business because, again, I love business. I love supporting people and I love answering questions. And 90% of us, our business is ourselves. Our personal values are really integrated into it. And we need to be authentic to ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, our businesses are not going to thrive. We are going to struggle with a lot of those things. So let me quickly share my screen. All right. And tell me, hey, Jessica, how are you today? Let me know what you guys do for your business. Let me know what you guys are doing for today. Thank you for coming. Just share with us. We'll get some engagement going on. So, overcoming self-love barriers, and it's for in business as well. So, the objective is to identify key barriers to self-love. And there's a lot of different barriers. I kind of broke them up into some categories because I like arranging things. Um, so, just 1 second there now. Understanding the impact of these barriers. Common mistakes when working on barriers, and some strategies to help with overcoming barriers. All right. So barriers that are preventing us from doing self-love. Physical barriers. Again, I love arranging things in categories. So some of the physical barriers that we have related to self-love is neglecting the physical self-care, so not taking care of our bodies, not accepting our physical appearance. So today I like to present dressed up because it makes me feel good, it makes me feel more confident. But today I intentionally dressed down, with my hair up, not washed, no makeup, my eyeglasses on, and just wearing a hoodie. So I'll talk a little bit more about how our appearance impacts us as well, and physical exhaustion. So how do these impact our self-love? Well, for the first one, neglecting our physical self-care means we have decreased energy and mood, and it makes it harder to feel good enough to work on self-love. And a lot of people are struggling with this part. If you're not eating healthy, you're not sleeping properly, you're not exercising, then you are already going to be at a low energy, and it's hard to be motivated, and it's hard to overcome anything and to even think of the importance of self-love. The When we're focusing on our appearance, it's very time consuming stressing over it, and can lead to spending money to change how you look, and there's no time or money for self-love. So then you're not going to be able to invest in different courses. You're not going to be able to get different books. You're not going to be able to spend the money on the stuff that actually energizes and fuels you, because you're too busy trying to focus on your appearance and trying to become like somebody else that you're not, and you don't become authentic. And at some point, I've heard some stories before, people that have done plastic surgery so often to change their appearance to be what everyone society considers beautiful, and they don't recognize themselves. So now they put so much focus on their appearance that their mental and emotions are broken, right? They hate themselves. They can't look in the mirror. They don't like what they see, even though they look what the ideal person is supposed to be. But there is no ideal. Everybody's different. Everyone has different preferences. So we really shouldn't be focusing on that. So that's why I talked about the self appearance. So a lot of times our clothing is psychological as well. So this becomes a barrier. So now I can hide behind something thicker and more comfortable, just kind of laid in lounge pants or anything, just and it changes your energy. It gives you that lower energy and it kind of prevents you. You can hide in it, right? So like if you put your hoodie up, now you can hide, right? You don't need people to see you. You're hiding away from everybody. So it really makes a big difference on our appearance, but we want to do it from a good side. So I mean, some people that this is it. This is what they love wearing. They love wearing the athletic clothes. They love wearing comfort clothes. They love whatever feels good for you. Wear it, and be you. I'm not saying any type of clothing, whether it's dresses or skirts or laid back, lounging pajamas, dressed up nice, professional, office clothing. Like it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're wearing it for the right reason and you're not doing it to kind of compare yourself to other people. Hey, Monica. So constant tiredness makes it hard to build a routine and be consistent with it. So if you are exhausted all the time, it is very hard to get motivated to take care of your physical health, to start routines, to be able to stick to the routines, whether it's grooming. Like I know at the end of the night, I used to get very tired all the time, so I wouldn't go wash my face at the end of the night and I just go in bed, right? So a lot of that impacts our self-love. Now, how does the physical barriers impact our business? So whether you own a business or you work somewhere, on not taking care of your self-care for physical, it does the same thing where it decreases your energy and mood, but it also decreases your productivity, which impacts your sales. So if you're a coach or you're someone that needs to speak to new clients, if you don't have that energy and you're not in a good mood, you're not going to be able to reach out to those people, and you're not going to be able to reach out authentically and with excited energy. That's really going to help get that connection and build that connection, because if you're reaching out just for the sake of reaching out, and that energy goes across, and then you're not going to talk back to you. So having that physical energy to be able to communicate is super important. If you work in retail or any other positions, it's important, especially retail. Like you're not going to be able to put the products on the floor if you don't have that energy. Your appearance, if you focus so much on your appearance, it's going to reduce your self-confidence and being able to market your offer or close your clients. So avoiding being on social media, not even dressing well. So again, like I'm dressing more laid down, which is nothing wrong with it, but it is a lot of people are afraid to do that, or they don't do that because they're like, well, someone's not going to listen to me if I don't look a certain way. So I just wanted to prove that it doesn't matter how you look, that you could still share your content and you could still share your value and you could still show up and do what is important to you and what you really want to do. But you cannot be afraid of what your appearance looks like or what people are thinking. Because right now, you're more likely going to be listening to what I'm saying if you're just listening as you're going through the replays, or you're looking at the screen at this PowerPoint that I have there for you guys. So you're probably not paying attention to what I look like, right? I mention it now, so you probably will, but it's not going to say I'm not going to listen to Fiona today because she didn't dress nice. So we really kind of interfere with ourselves with our appearance and really prevent our business because we're afraid to show up on camera and we're afraid to show up and be there and be in front of people because we're afraid if they may not like our hair, if they may not like how we look, if we're too big, if we're too small, if we're have some type of facial feature we don't like, or our clothes aren't the right way or anything like that. But it doesn't matter. You're going to attract the people that you're ready to attract, and you're going to pull them in and they're going to listen. But you're not going to do that if you don't have the confidence, because you're going to attract the people that are also struggling and maybe not your ideal customers. So you really want to focus on yourself to know who your ideal customers are to be able to attract them into you. All right. And physical exhaustion leads to burnout. It leads to your business failing. It leads to no energy for family and friends. So you're having a really low energy, very tired. And most people, if you're running your own business, you just give up because you can't keep going. You're too tired, it's too much work. You're spending hours and hours trying to chase after people. But if you're not confident, you're not going to be able to support people and be able to help them with whatever their goals are, if that's your business, or be able to successfully do your own business if you're too tired all the time. You just don't have the energy to do it. So the next set of barriers is mental barriers. Negative self-talk, that is huge. Very, very big. And a lot of times it comes from our past experiences, whether it's trauma, our parenthood, like our parents, our teachers, or any authority figure that we had growing up. And unfortunately, as children, we don't realize that they're helping us as best they can. Like my friend Amanda that I talked about yesterday too, she had commented that when she was a child, it was implanted in your brain, don't talk to strangers, like it don't go in their cars, don't go anywhere because you're a child, you cannot defend yourself, you can't tell whether something is good or not, or you might know, but you're afraid to go against it. So what we're taught as children is not to talk to strangers. Well, now what do we have to do as adults when we have businesses, when we have to go out to jobs, right? We have to talk to strangers, we have to make those connections, we have to network, we have to collaborate. So some people can find that very hard because of what we're taught as children. So a lot of times what we're taught as kids doesn't relate and doesn't transition to adults. But a lot of us are so used to listening to the self-talk that we start to follow those rules, and then we start to continue listening and give that voice a microphone in our head. We want to, like, it's there, it's going to be there, it's a part of us, but we want to reframe more of that negative self-talk, and we want to be able to listen to ourselves, not just the voices that are inside our head. So another mental barrier is perfectionism or unrealistic standards. So I know I did a podcast interview last night and we talked about how I can't say that I wish my parents taught me this stuff when I was growing up because this stuff wasn't around when I was growing up. People weren't very aware of mental health. They weren't very aware of all of these key components. And like perfectionism, that was a high trait that everybody loved having. If you were a perfectionist, that meant you paid attention to details, you were very focused, you were very oriented, and you made sure that you gave your best 120% of the time and that you wouldn't do anything without having it perfect. And I used to think I was a perfectionist, or probably was a perfectionist. And I used to thrive so hard on that and just be like, I got to make it perfect. I got to make it good for people to see it. But perfectionism is more about that external influence and what people would perceive your work. And it's not about you. So then I'm starting to realize by, embracing self-love, that perfectionism is really bad. It is not good. There is nothing good about perfectionism because even though you pay attention to details, you use it and you focus, and once you find something that's perfect, there's always going to be something else that's wrong, and you're always going to want to go back and fix it. So then now all of a sudden you're chasing after unrealistic goals, and it's going to burn you out, and you're going to procrastinate, and you're not going to be able to do anything, and you're not going to be able to focus on self-love because you're going to be too busy focused on the small details and think that, oh, this reflection isn't good enough, this work isn't good enough, I'm not completing my tasks, I'm not doing the skills correctly, I'm not meditating correctly. So a lot of that will impact us. Anxiety and depression. This one is huge for a lot of people. And with that astigmatism with mental health, a lot of people hide this and they don't talk about it. Or when they go to deal with it, unfortunately, a lot of them go on medications. And kids are going on medications now for anxiety and depression, and they're not getting the proper support, and they're not learning to be internal. They're learning to put a band aid over their concern and issue. So once the medication stops, their anxiety and depression is still there. It's not going to make any difference for them. So now if they do need medication, because some people, it's important to have medication to be able to help bring that calmness down. Essential oils are really good for helping with this as well. I use it for mine all the time when I first started, and it really helped, especially some of the oils that are for calming and to help allow you to be more reflective as opposed to reactive, and to kind of get more energy and more boost to get out of the depressions and states like that. But some people do need it. But the problem is that's all they do. They don't do anything else. But you need to really learn to do your self-love and to build your barriers and go over it. So anxiety is when we're afraid of stuff that hasn't happened, that's in the future, right? We're worrying about a potential losing our job, being homeless, getting into accidents. Like I used to be terrified of turning left into the first part of the parking lot because then we were going across a parking lot where someone could hit you, right? It didn't make sense. I never once got in an accident in a parking lot. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it didn't happen to me. So that my feelings of being anxious and afraid of that didn't make sense. So I started to work on challenging it, say, why am I so afraid of this? Why am I so concerned? And depression is we're focusing a lot on the past, right? And we live on the past. We're worried about stuff, or we just don't have that low energy. And these are very real concerns that do take a little bit of time to work through. And it's not easy. For some people, it's a bit easier. Some people, it's a lot harder. But it's taking that choice and making that decision to move forward to not allow this to be barriers to us. And emotional regulation. A lot of us haven't learned how to regulate our emotions because our parents, again, loving how things were different. There was no such thing as self-care back 20, 30 years ago. No, their parents didn't take care of themselves as well as they should have, right? Because they weren't taught to do that. They were taught to take care of your kids. Your kids are number one. You have to like, I love my mom, but that's her ideology is your kids always come first. She sacrificed herself. She sacrificed her hobbies. She sacrificed money. She sacrificed doing so much stuff to raise us instead. But one of the struggles sometimes too, when it comes to putting so much of your energy and focus on your kids, is you're not teaching them to take care of themselves. You're not teaching them to regulate themselves. So they don't learn how to deal with these emotions and they don't learn. And then a lot of times, I know I've done it a couple of times to my son too, when he's upset and we start crying, I'd be like, oh, you don't need to cry. Right. So again, I'm telling him what to do or not do. I'm not giving him that opportunity to be like, "Well, why are you feeling this way?" So one day he was mad at me and he's like, "I'm very mad at you." And I was like, "Okay, well, why? What is giving you that feelings? Let us talk about it. Tell me how and why that is happening." So I let him kind of talk through it and figure out what it was that he was mad about and what I had done. And I can't remember what it was, but I apologized for that perception and what happened. So it's a lot of times we do get in our way of our children and we don't learn how to regulate our emotions. And then we take that into adulthood and we take that into our relationships and we take that into our workplace. So some of the impacts of these mental barriers on our self-love is it reduces our confidence and decision making and it makes us more pessimistic. Perfectionism causes unrealistic expectations that we project onto others. So again, we're not only being perfectionists with ourselves, we're pushing it on our family, like if you have to show that you have the best family that don't get into trouble, that are listening all the time and that we have a lot of like you have a lot of status, you have a lot of money, whatever the case is that you're dressed up nice to the nines all the time, then it causes a lot more energy drained on the people around us and it makes it a lot harder, especially if you're a leader or a boss and you're doing it to your employees, that you're making them redo work over and over again. Like if they're a person who's creating graphics for you, if they're editing videos for you, that you just make them continue doing the work over and over again. And it's exhausting. And a lot of people end up leaving and quitting because we're busy trying to make everyone else like us. Right, it was supposed to be about self-love too. But again, your family, and it's hard to meet our expectations, and then we become harsher critics on ourselves because we're more judging because we can't meet our standards. And every single time we meet the standards, that bar goes up. So it keeps going up and up and up. And then we start to procrastinate, and then we start to be afraid of what other people are thinking, and we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of failure. And it really leads us to not being able to do anything related to self-love because we're too afraid to fail. And can't be present in feelings of unworthiness. Mhm. So a lot of times when we have anxiety and depression, we can't be there. We're too busy worried about the future. We're too busy worrying about the past and things that we can't happen. And we're not present. We're not there. We're not focused and we're not supporting ourselves or having the energy to do anything. And then for emotional regulation, unable to regulate or control emotions, which makes self-love very challenging. If you are very reactive and you don't know how to embrace your emotions, so we have dark sides, we have dark emotions, we have negative emotions. That's just part of life. They wouldn't be there if they weren't meant for something. So, like for example, if we've got anger, so a lot of people suppress that anger. So what happens when you suppress that anger? If you don't deal with the anger, you don't deal with what caused it. And a lot of times when we're angry, it's because we're tired or burnt out or there's something that's not aligning with us. But if we ignore that, then all of a sudden a small thing, and I used to be really bad at this. I used to ignore stuff that bothered me and concerned me. And then all of a sudden it'll be like someone said, "Oh, here you're what?" Like they left a glass on the counter, a stupid small thing. But that's what I get most angry and I'd blow up about and I get super mad and not talk for hours because of a glass on the counter. But it wasn't the glass on the counter. It was everything else leading up to that point because there was no communication and there was no way of regulating those emotions to deal with anger when it came up. So when you're able to, and that prevents you from doing self-love because you're not embracing that part of you because that is a huge part of you. those feelings are there for a reason. You have to embrace them and learn your lessons from them to move forward. And how these mental barriers impact our business. Right? So it reduces confidence and decision making in your business, you're more pessimistic. So if you're not confident, then you're going to be more indecisive. You're not going to be able to change the way your business is going. Think of some innovations. Perfectionism leads to procrastination, and you're unable to meet deadlines. You're unable to provide the results or provide the work that you have for your clients. So if you're a coach and you have people that paid for your program and you haven't completed it and you're too worried about being perfect, or if you're doing groups and trainings and you're too worried, hi Don, if you're too worried about any of those things, then you are going to procrastinate, not do it, and then you're going to lose that credibility and you're going to lose that likability because you're not doing anything. So that's why they always say something messy is better than nothing, right? And then you can work and tweak as you go. So with anxiety and depression, it helps with struggling with your day-to-day activities, and you may not even show up to work. A lot of people end up taking time off work because they can't handle their anxiety. They're too stressed out, they're too overwhelmed, or they can't even get out of bed. Some people I know, one person shared a story where they couldn't shower like for weeks at a time because they didn't have that energy and that motivation to be able to go shower. So one of the people going through a coaching program with me, she had shared a post and she said the person's like, wash your dishes 3 times. If you don't wanna scrub the dishes before putting in the dishwasher, who says you only have to wash it once? If you have to wash it 3 times, wash it 3 times to get them clean. And that person had commented that they started to do that, and they even started to take showers lying down because they didn't have the energy to stand up in the shower, right? So a lot of times depression, anxiety prevents us from doing stuff, and we aren't able to show up to work. We aren't able to show up and be there and be on social media or help support people. And emotional regulations causes poor decisions, whether you are doing it because everything's positive and you're very pumped and you're excited and you're like, yes, let's go do something without really thinking about it, as well as the negative emotions. If you're dealing with stuff because you're taking things more personal, if you are getting upset or angry, then you're saying things that is not right. You are causing fights, you're instigating stuff, and it's impulse reactions. You're not taking the time to think about anything, and you could cause employees to quit. And I've done that 4 to 5 years ago. I would get upset and angry, and then it would prevent bad, um, they would feel upset and angry, and they would quit. So it was really bad, situations, and you lose good workers for that reason. So fear-based barriers, a lot of times people struggle with this, especially if you're in the coaching industry or service industry, because you're thinking you're not good enough, why me? And you're just dealing with a lot of fear that's stopping you because your brain, in Rob Dial's book Level Up, he talks a lot about this, and I would encourage you to check out that book. But that one there, he talks a lot about the different fears, and he talks about how in our primal, like back in caveman days, we fear was important because it kept us safe. You didn't go out at night because there was big creatures that was going around that you could hurt you. But as our life evolved, then we started getting a lot more of these intellectual fears. But that fear is still processed in the same part of your brain as the physical. So your brain can't interpret the difference between intellectual fear, which is all the ones that we'll share here, or fear of actual physical death. So we become afraid of stuff and we stop doing things and we allow them to become barriers and not follow our dreams because we're so afraid of doing something. So some of these fears is fear of judgment and rejection. Perfectionism plays into this huge because you're afraid someone's going to reject the work that you're doing if they don't think it's good enough, right? And you're afraid of being judged by people. Fear of failure. A lot of people are afraid to try something and look like they can't succeed and having people laugh at them or say something, or some of them just don't want to look weak. But I love failure. I encourage my team to make mistakes all the time, but I ask them to be aware of and recognize when they're making the mistakes, or sometimes they can't. Like, it's hard to find mistakes until afterwards because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know you made a mistake. But the second they recognize a mistake, to be able to come say, "Hey, I made a mistake. What can we do?" And we can work on learning from it. Because if everything goes the way it's supposed to go, How are you going to learn anything? You can't. You have to fail. Someone shared a post yesterday and I loved it. They said, failure is the currency of success. You're going to fail 100 times, 1,000 times, a lot before you're successful, before you learn to master something. Because if you didn't fail at anything and everybody could master whatever they thought about, everyone would be a master. You wouldn't have people struggling. You wouldn't have people giving up and afraid. So, fear of vulnerability. Again, from 20, 30 years ago, it was bad to show weakness. It was bad to be vulnerable. It was bad it was bad to show up with no makeup on and looking like you just rolled out of bed, and it was everyone's afraid to talk about their concerns and issues and their struggles because they're afraid of what people will think and judge them. And then imposter syndrome. This is a really big one for people that, again, like I said, the coaching and service network marketing. You're afraid that people are going to call you a fraud or that you don't have an expert. And I remember talking to people about some of my coaching and my what I do, and then they're like, "Well, what degree do you have in that?" Right? So again, a lot of people get afraid and hide behind the fact that they don't have degrees or they don't have college education or whatever the case is. So then they shy down and they give up because they're afraid of what people can do, but everyone's got something that they're good at naturally, and they can, do it in their sleep, and they could do it without thinking. Hi, Sonia. So, some of the ways that these fear-based barriers impact our self-love for the judgment and rejection, it's you're afraid to do activities that are, or you do activities that are the opposite of self-love, such as suppressing your true selves and suppressing your emotions. And because you're afraid of judging, you're afraid of showing up in front of people, and you're afraid of rejection, so you're afraid to reach out to people and make those connections. um, with your fear of trying to build a self-love routine, right? So if you're afraid of failure, then you're not going to work on building your self-love routine. You're not going to work on doing anything that is important to you because you're afraid that you're going to fail and you're afraid that you're going to make mistakes and that people are going to see you making the mistakes. So why start a routine? Why try to improve yourself? Why try to do the activities that people recommend when it comes to self-development? And when people are afraid of vulnerability, it stops them from getting the help for their struggles. So a lot of people, and I would say for especially for people for coaching and services, when you're reaching out to potential clients, a lot of the objections that you're going to get isn't related to you. I mean, if you don't show up with confidence, then you lead to a lot of confusion if you don't have clarity. So that 10%, 20% is on how you present yourself and how your mindset is going into it. But a lot of it is because people are afraid to open up about their own struggles. They're afraid to think like they don't know that they can do it, right? They're worried about failing. They're worried about admitting their problems. So a lot of times people don't want to admit that they're struggling with something. So if they're like, "Oh yeah, like how's your business going?" "Oh, it's fine. It's good. I'm getting people, you know? So a lot of times they don't struggle or like, how's your self-care? How's your love? Oh, my self-care is good. I'm doing it. Right? What are you doing? Is it really beneficial? Are you doing the right stuff? But a lot of people are afraid to admit when they're struggling, especially when it comes to finances. A lot of people are terrified to talk about money and they're afraid to open up. And I mean, that's an important part of us. They're afraid to admit when they're struggling with it. They're afraid to admit when they can't manage it. But you can't help work on your self love and you can't do some self care stuff if you don't have the money and you don't have that management. And financial self care is a very big thing. And then imposter syndrome leads to self doubt that you can never love yourself. So if you start to worry and your brain wants to keep you in a routine and it wants to keep you in a where it knows it's comfortable, then it's going to give you a lot more self doubt. And when you talk to people that aren't in the same light mindset, you're going to listen to them, and they are going to say that, "Oh, this is hard. This is impossible. You're not going to be able to love yourself. You're never going to be there. You're never going to be good enough to do that." And how these impact your business is fear of rejection and judgment can lead to people pleasing behavior and hurting the values of your business. And I did this because that was one of the things that I struggled with very often because I didn't choose myself. I didn't like myself. And I was afraid of being rejected by people because I didn't like myself and I didn't value and I didn't think I was worthy or good enough. So when I started one of my businesses a handful of years ago, I used to be like, let me offer you this. Let me do this for you. Let me And I would just, like, encourage them, support them, and be like, "I'll buy from you, you buy from me, like, join this, do this," and I used to do whatever I could to people please, and it really hurt my finances, and it hurt my business because then all of a sudden I was from a scarcity mindset, I was desperate, I was providing poor energy to people, and I was attracting the people that were gonna take advantage, or I was attracting the people that, would ghost me or, like, and then again, it continued giving me the same rejection. So then I had a different mentor coach and she talked about the rejection. She's like, "Well, what is this pattern?" And she pointed it out to me. She's like, "You just commented that everybody keeps ghosting you." So she's like, "That why are they ghosting you? What do you need to learn to overcome that?" And I realized I had that fear of rejection and I was afraid of people rejecting me. So then I was having people reject me. I wasn't having those authentic connections because of the people rejecting. And the fear of failure really prevents businesses from scaling and growing. It prevents them from trying something new. Prevents them from completing courses for your business to be able to do stuff. A lot of the first year when you start a business really should be focused on yourself, on learning your skills, improving who you are. If you have a team, learning how to be a good leader for your team, and it should be more about building your audience, building your credibility, and a lot of people are afraid to do self-development. They're afraid to do different things that will help support their business and teach them the stuff that they don't know, right? Because we don't know what we don't know until we try to do it. And it really stalls innovation. So if you're afraid of failing, then you're not going to try something new. You're not going to try something innovative. Like a lot of companies, they had to try something new, right? And if they let failure stop them, like Netflix, I mean, that's huge now. It used to start as a company that was kind of like Columbia House, where you got like Columbia House, you bought movies, but Netflix started where you used to rent movies and they mail it to you and you mail it back. And then they evolved with the time and now they're a streaming company, right? But what if they were afraid to go online? What if they were afraid to stream? Like it would change society today because a lot of people watch Netflix. A lot of people do that whole Netflix and chill, and it really changes if people were to stall and not do anything. And if you're vulnerable, you're unable to communicate or get help. And if you're struggling in your business, but you're afraid to admit what part you're struggling with, then you're going to continue having that concern and issue. And you're going to try doing your business. You're going to try to work harder. You're going to try to, like, if you struggle with being able to do sales and to close people and be able to get new customers, then you're not like, and you don't communicate to get some support to help you with that, you're going to constantly struggle with that part. So it doesn't matter if you talk to 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, you're doing more work with the same struggles. So you're going to get the same results over and over again. Like your results aren't going to change just because you're doing more. So you have to think smarter and you have to be willing to open up and communicate and say, okay, I'm struggling with this part. What can I do? What mentor can I have that can help me overcome some objections or help me overcome my barriers? And imposter syndrome really prevents your business from scaling because you're afraid that you're not good enough. You're afraid of success. You're afraid that the more you are in front of people, the more that they're going to tell you you're a fraud or that things are not working. And is really going to stop you from being able to reach the figures that you want and either stall your business or kill your business, like in the Death Valley. A lot of businesses fail and a lot of them fail because we let fear drive us instead of us having it push us and motivate us and know that we're learning and we're growing. So, because fear is at that border of where you grow, and a lot of people turn back from it. So, societal barriers for society, cultural expectations, social comparison, and gender roles and stereotypes. So, a lot of these are barriers as well for us. So for cultural, it pressures people to live in a way that doesn't match their values. And every country has their own cultures, and many countries have subcultures and different things and nuances that everybody do. And you grew up with that. So a lot of what we believe in, a lot of our values were adopted to us from our parents and from our cultures. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to live that way. Like, for example, some cultures they prize hardworking, and you get to the point where you're burning out instead because you're pushing yourself harder and harder to meet the expectations of the culture. Especially for women, there's some culture that women are supposed to be underneath men, and they have a more of a patriarch type of hierarchy. So then all of a sudden you're preventing yourself from doing more and loving yourself more because of the those pressures that are put onto you, and you're told to be quiet. Like, you can't speak your mind, you can't learn, you can't empower yourself. Social comparison, social media is huge, it's really big, but a lot of times you see perfect lives on there. Like, people are showing videos and they're showing pictures, and they've got a lot of uh, not as much photoshopping, but they are tweaking and picturing, and you could see like their perfect life in their photos. So one influencer, she's a kitchen person, so she creates a lot of meals and preps a lot of stuff. And in every single video, everything's clean and perfect. And a lot of the moms are like, "Well, how are you so perfect? Like, this isn't realistic." And then she took her camera one day and flipped it around, and you could see all the pile of dishes on the other side of the that's not in her videos, right? So a lot of times our perception of what perfect is from social media, and then we're trying to compare to them. So like, a lot of people, again, if they're trying to convince you to go to financing and to follow them and to invest in their bitcoins, they're going to show you private jets, they're going to show you fast cars. And I mean, who knows if they actually own those and they're not renting them for the photo shoot. So it's hard to really know what's real and what isn't real. And when we start comparing ourselves to social media, our self-worth goes down because, oh, we'll never have as much money as this person, we'll never have a perfect family, look at their kids aren't screaming and going crazy and eating stuff off the floor. Like, we do measure ourselves, and it's hard to have self-love when you're comparing yourselves to everybody else around you. And gender, rigid stereotypes can lead to not being true to oneself. And a lot of times, again, for moms and women, some some society, like, they say that you should be home taking care of your kids. So if you decide you put your career first or want to improve yourself and do something, then a lot of times people frown upon that and say you should be at home, you should be taking care of the kids, you should be taking care of the house to make sure your husband has a good life coming in. So there's a lot of those stereotypes that prevent us. Or a lot of stereotypes are just that, you're not pretty enough to do something, you're not pretty enough to be in front of people speaking and sharing your knowledge and everything like that. So we are fighting with a lot of those stereotypes, and it really impacts our self-worth and our value. And how these impact our business is, for cultural, can prevent innovation or to do leadership following cultural norms. So what I'm talking about this is, a lot of times, especially, like, it's changing a lot now, but it's a really hard struggle for women to get up to different positions. At the summit last week, Wendy Lee had talked about her being in a corporate office, like corporate job, and she was talking to the VP, and he was telling her how good she did. She set up a new branch, and she hired the people, and she was really doing very well. And he's like, "If you need help with anything, let me know." And she said she wanted to be a CEO of the business one day. And he's like, "You're a woman, that's not going to happen." Right? And that's unfortunately a lot of what women face when they come to cultural norms. And it really impacts the businesses because we are struggling with facing those things, and we have extra barriers that are preventing us, and more things that we have to break through, and more ways that we need self-love to help overcome those confidence and prove that we could do this. Some other cultural norms as well, like leadership is more like men. So a lot of men are in the leadership roles, and a lot of men they behave different than women do. They don't have the same um, empathy, and they're more, sorry, like, I'm trying to figure out from amends, but they're more assertive, they're more like demanding, or whatever the case is. Like, their style of leadership is completely different. And I know for mine, like, quite often my boss would say to me that I'm too nice, but he encourages me to continue with my leadership in the way that I work it, because it is working and it is going through. But I lead more with empathy, I lead more with self-love, and I lead more with being aware of the work culture in my business. So that way I'm supporting other people to do, like, for their leadership and to empower them. But a lot of times people, especially women, feel like they have to be more like men, and then they're not authentic to themselves. And then because they're not authentic, it's not real, then they cause a little bit of toxicity in their business, and it really prevents that innovation and that team building. And when we're comparing ourselves, like I said, that fast car, How many people would wanna go and have a fast card because they thought like, it makes them look good, it makes them feel good, and it's for that external validation, and people can perceive you, "Oh, look at this person, they've got it together because they've got this nice car." Right? So we have a lot of people, and then a lot of people judge based on objects and stuff. But not only that, if you're not sure about yourself and you're busy trying to compare yourself to other people, you probably see someone who's been in business for 5, 10 plus years. And you're like, wow, this person has a lot of followers. This person has a lot of business. This person is claiming they've made millions and billions of dollars. And you're trying to copy that person and you're trying to be that person. And when it's not working for you and you're struggling, then you see someone else and you start turning and looking at that other person and you start copying that person. Or you go into a coaching program and you're ready to learn, and then all of a sudden you realize something's a little uncomfortable, something's a little different, and it's not what you expected it to be, and start comparing that person to other people, and then you start saying, this isn't right, this isn't working for me, and then you go find something else. So then you're constantly investing money and you're not following through, and you're hurting your business, and you're not being authentic to yourself. Because what way, like the way I do my business is going to be different from somebody else's because it's me and it's how I align myself and it's what works and what I value. But it's not going to work for everybody. It shouldn't work for everybody. Not everybody has the same experience or the same strengths and the same way that they love to present. So they need to do stuff that's them. So you can pick pieces that you like from other people and learn from other people, but make it you. Turn it to you, how it will work for you and what you need in order to be successful. And then your market perception and business not being taken seriously. So that again for the gender roles for women, I talked a little bit about the leadership part of it, but a lot of times people think women can't run successful businesses. And it's a lot harder and it's harder to get that trust. So especially if you are in a male dominated business, then people are going to be like, "Oh, go back to your house, go back to do this." Like you're not going to do it. And you have even more objections to overcome because of the perception that's in the marketplace and that you're not being taken seriously. And that's a lot of energy and it's a lot of resources to overcome that and it's a lot harder for your business. So now more and more is changing and there's a lot more people that are like a lot more women that are leading businesses and they're stepping up in leadership roles and it's great and the mind shift is changing and it's helping a lot. So but it's still a barrier that needs to be dealt with. So my affirmation is challenge my challenges are opportunities for growth, and I face them with resilience and courage. I am deserving of success and happiness, and I confidently take steps towards achieving my goals. So challenges are opportunities for growth. Fear is letting you know you're stepping into something new, and it's scary, but you got to be resilient and you got to use courage. You're deserving of the success and happiness. So, common mistakes people make with barriers. Overemphasizing on appearance. We talked a lot about that. They put so much of their emphasis on makeup, the perfect clothing, how exercising. Some people exercise too much. Some people don't eat healthy because they want to be a certain size, right? So, there's a lot of issues and concerns that can come up when we're trying to overcome the barriers. And we focus so much like a lot of people are like, I need to love myself. I don't like how I look. I don't like my weight. So let me go to the gym 7 days a week for 2 or 3 hours at a time and let me lose the weight. But you're not dealing with the emotional component and the mental component of that part of it. Over identification with our thoughts. If and again, it could be good, it could be bad. It's great to have goals. It's great to have positive thoughts and stuff like that. But sometimes that could make us take on more stuff than what we can manage. And if you take on too much, you might feel like you're failing and you might feel like you're never going to succeed at anything because you're doing too much at one time. So you have to recognize that part of it too. But especially with the negative thoughts, again, a lot of our negative thoughts come from our parents, it comes from our culture, it comes from our society. And the more we think about them, and the more that we identify that that's true and that we're not going to do anything, then it's going to be even harder to overcome. They're avoiding situations that make us scared. Again, a lot of businesses fail and a lot of people fail. And a lot of people stick to their 9 to 5 because it's easy and it doesn't make you scared. Like a lot of people are afraid of public speaking, so they won't create videos. They won't create um, or just show up online because they're afraid of what people will say or think about them, and they lose that opportunity. Conforming to harmful norms. So again, a lot of this is the society, for especially for women that they're told that they have to take care of the homes, that they have to take care of the kids, and they have to burn themselves out. So a lot of times, instead of getting support or communicating that they need support in their homes, they are spending their time doing their jobs and their businesses while taking care of the kids, and they're not getting outside help if you need to, like getting someone to help clean your house. If you're busy with your business, you're busy working and you're busy doing a lot of stuff, then get some help from outside. Like if you need someone to like get meals that are pre-cooked, get someone to help clean your house, whatever the case you need to help get you that support to be able to do your business. But if we conform to that fact that we're supposed to do everything, then we're going to burn ourselves out because we're not getting that help. And suppressing emotions. This is especially true for men, but a lot of women do it too. Because again, with that fear of vulnerability, you don't want to show people any of your emotions. You don't want people to see that you're struggling or you're scared or you're sad or you're angry, and you bury those inside of you. But that's only hurting you because you're not acknowledging the reason why they're there, and you're ignoring the fact that there's something wrong. And misaligning personal values that come from our parents and our culture. So, as I talked about, a lot of our values are what our parents had, especially when it comes to money. So, things that we think about money, we learned from our parents. Growing up, if your parents are always like, "Oh, I need coupons. I need to cut coupons. I need to save this. Let's go here because we're going to be able to save lots of money. Let's buy stock up on stuff." So, because you buy one get one free. So, let's stock up on two things and buy it when we don't necessarily need it. A lot of our personal values, the same thing, how we feel about people, how we feel about ourselves, very often come from our parents or our cultures. And we don't recognize and separate the two and see what our values are, like how we truly feel about money, how we truly feel about ourselves, how we truly feel about things that are happening, because we just learned it and we took what we learned, what we were nurtured as real. Some strategies for overcoming these barriers. Cultivating self-compassion. As we talked a bit about yesterday, self-compassion is very important because it allows you to be kind to yourself, not over judging. It allows you to recognize that other people are in the same boat, that other people are struggling with self-love and they're struggling with their businesses as well. And it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to open up to people because there's other people that are in the same situation and they could help support you, or like, I had this problem, this is how I solved it. This is my results. So communicating and knowing that you're not not isolating yourself is very important, as well as being present and in the moment. That helps you with your emotional regulation because when you're present, it also helps to prevent your anxiety and depression because it's harder to worry about the future, and it's harder to obsess over the past when you're in the present moment and focused on the here and now. Reframing your mindset and identity shift. So again, reframing those negative thoughts, thanking your thoughts for being there, but working on proving them right or wrong and overcoming that, as well as changing your identity. Like if you're someone that's like, oh, I hate myself, then if you turn it to someone, I love myself, then you're going to start taking the actions. You're going to get up in the morning. You're going to work out. You're going to create lists and goals and achieve them because you've changed to be someone. So you really need to work on your mindset. And 80% of anything in life, and I think it's more 95% of anything in life, is your mind and how you perceive yourself. And don't worry about how other people perceive you. You need to work and think about how you perceive yourself, what you want in life, what you value, and just go for it. And unfortunately, sometimes that means getting rid of some relationships that are not supporting and they're not benefiting you. Obviously, you can't cut off all your family, but I mean, interact with them less or have less conversations about them or with them about certain topics. Like there's some people that are not entrepreneurs. They don't have that mindset. So if you talk to them about your business, they're going to tell you to give up and it's okay to go back get another job because they don't know the challenges. They don't know what it's like. Right? So same thing if you talk to people that aren't going through self-love or they don't believe in self-love, because there's a lot of people that do not believe in self-care and they believe in putting their kids first, right? So you telling them that you're going to go do a career, you're going to go do your hobbies, they're going to say that why are you doing that? Why are you putting yourself first instead of your kids? right? Setting healthy boundaries. This helps with your physical because, again, you have that work life balance. You know when you've done too much, when you're not setting up. It helps with your emotions, it helps with your energy, it helps with fear because you're putting those boundaries in place. Work on emotional intelligence. This again relates a lot to self compassion. It relates to a lot of the different self awareness, but being able to take time. And I, again, I use essential oils to help me with this. And I really use them to help me calm down, to think about the emotional sides of it. It really helped me not be reactive because I was a very reactive person. I was a very, like, my emotions were on my face all the time. The second I was in a bad mood or I was angry, everyone around knew it because I shared that expression. So again, I'm not saying suppress them. Emotional intelligence is not about suppressing. It's about acknowledging and taking that time to think about how your emotions are impacting you, why they are there, and how you can deal with them and handle them. And empowerment through action. No matter what you do, you need to take action. Knowing your barriers isn't going to change them if you don't take action to change it, right? So having a mentor or a coach that can help with accountability, those are going to be able to help support you, or building a community. Right. So today's homework for this one here is list some barriers you believe you are facing in the four areas that I spoke about. So you can list one, list a couple, just really think about some of the things that are preventing you from having self love or preventing you from your business, right? So watching too much Netflix. So I was struggling with that a lot last year when one of my businesses, I stopped doing the work and I stopped seeing the results because I was spending more of my time on Netflix and I was staying up too late at night. So then I was tired and I didn't have the energy I needed in order to do my jobs and my business successfully. Reflect on how they are currently impacting you now. So what part of these barriers are impacting you, right? So my barrier was spending more time watching Netflix. What was I doing? I was taking instant gratification as opposed to working hard, and I was afraid of showing up, and I was afraid of being rejected. So I was letting myself get distracted and not doing work, and I didn't make any money off my business, and I struggled. You want to dive a bit deeper as well to find the root cause. And again, watching a lot too much Netflix, getting distracted, the root cause was that fear of rejection and afraid that people won't like me and they won't choose me. And it really helped me understand I have nothing to be afraid of because there's enough people out there that if they need the support and they connect with me, they're going to come to me and I'm going to be able to help make the impact and change them. And then when you start with one person, then you can help with the next person and help with the next person, and you grow and you feel more confident knowing that you're able to make that impact and change stuff. And outline one strategy that can help you overcome the barrier. So one of the strategies I mentioned, there's a lot of other strategies as well, but just outline something that can help you come with the barrier. And again, if you want to share it in the Facebook group, you can have that community help support you. You can have the accountability there to be able to help support you to say, hey, this is a strategy I want to work with. Having a coach or a mentor, like someone for myself that helps with strategies and help create and help come up with some worksheets and plans and be able to hold it accountable and be able to go through it and be able to be that person looking in to say if this is or isn't working will really help you with that as well. So that is everything for today. If you guys have any questions and you want to be able to share them in the Facebook, let me know if you caught the replay. I've seen a couple people pop in. Hi, Melissa. Hey, Yvonne. If you guys catch the replay, let me know. Pop on if you have any questions. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going through kind of putting everything together to be able to help support you with self love and to be able to turn it as an actionable skill. So, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you same time tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. All right. And I did see Sonia said hello. So, have a good day, guys.